At my cousin's wedding reception, my Aunt Linda stood up during speeches and announced to 150 guests that I was too dumb for medical school and should stop embarrassing the family with impossible dreams. I calmly pulled out the acceptance letter from Johns Hopkins that had arrived that morning and read it aloud. Her face went completely white, and what happened next destroyed her credibility forever. Before I dive into this story of academic vindication and the most satisfying educational revenge imaginable, let me know where you're watching from in the comments below. Hit that like button if you've ever had family members underestimate your intelligence or academic potential, and subscribe to True Revenge for more stories of educational doubters being proven spectacularly wrong. My name is Sarah, I'm 22 years old, and until this past weekend, my extended family believed I was the less intelligent member of our academically accomplished clan. This story begins with years of subtle academic put-downs and ends with a medical school acceptance letter that silenced my biggest critic in front of 150 wedding guests. I come from a family that places enormous emphasis on academic achievement. My parents are both university professors. Dad teaches economics at Northwestern, and Mom is a literature professor at DePaul. My older brother Marcus graduated summa cum laude from Harvard Law School and now works at a prestigious Chicago firm. Within this high-achieving environment, I was always considered the family underperformer. Not because I was a bad student, but because my academic path was different and my achievements were less immediately visible than my brother's standardized test scores and prestigious admissions. I struggled with severe test anxiety throughout high school, which affected my scores and initially limited my college options. While Marcus was setting records on standardized tests and getting recruited by Ivy League schools, I was attending community college and working part-time to build my academic confidence. My Aunt Linda, my mother's older sister, was particularly vocal about what she perceived as my academic limitations. Linda is a retired high school principal who has very strong opinions about intelligence, academic potential, and educational achievement. Sarah just isn't naturally gifted like Marcus, Linda would say during family gatherings. Some people are born scholars and others need to find different paths in life. Linda's comments were always phrased as concern rather than criticism, but the message was clear. She believed I lacked the intellectual capability for serious academic achievement. When I transferred from community college to the University of Illinois and declared a pre-med major, Linda's skepticism became more overt. Pre-med, she said when I announced my major during Christmas dinner my sophomore year. Sarah, that's extremely competitive. Are you sure you've thought this through realistically? Medicine requires exceptional academic performance, she continued. Maybe you should consider something more practical, like business or communications. Linda's doubts were echoed by several other family members who viewed my community college start and previous academic struggles as evidence that I wasn't medical school material. Medical school is incredibly difficult to get into, my Uncle Robert pointed out. The acceptance rates are tiny, and the competition includes students from the best schools in the country. Sarah, you're smart, but medical school might be setting yourself up for disappointment, added my grandmother, who usually supported my goals. Maybe nursing or physical therapy would be more realistic options. Constant questioning of my academic potential was discouraging, but it also motivated me to prove that intelligence isn't always measured by standardized tests or traditional academic paths. I threw myself into my pre-med coursework with unprecedented focus and determination. I studied constantly, sought help from professors, formed study groups, and treated every exam like it was a step toward my medical school dreams. My grades improved dramatically. I earned straight A's in organic chemistry, physics, and advanced biology courses that many of my classmates found impossible. I scored in the 95th percentile on mine after months of intensive preparation. But my family remained skeptical about my medical school prospects. Good grades at a state school are different from competing against students from Harvard and Yale, Linda reminded me when I shared my academic progress. Medical schools want the absolute best students, not just people who work hard. Sarah, I admire your dedication, my father said diplomatically, but medical school admissions are incredibly competitive. You should have backup plans in case the applications don't work out. Even my academic advisor at the University of Illinois, while supportive, cautioned me about the reality of medical school admissions. Your grades and test scores are excellent, Dr. Martinez told me during our pre-application meeting. But you'll be competing against students with perfect scores and research experience at prestigious institutions. Make sure you apply broadly and have alternative career paths in mind. Despite the constant reminders about how unlikely my acceptance would be, I applied to 15 medical schools, including several top-tier programs that I probably wouldn't have considered if I'd listened to everyone's doubts. The application process was grueling and expensive. I spent months writing personal statements, gathering letters of recommendation, and traveling to interviews. Throughout this process, my family's skepticism continued. How much are all these applications costing? Linda asked during one family dinner. It seems like a lot of money to spend on something so unlikely to succeed. Sarah, I hope you're not getting your hopes too high, my mother warned. Medical school rejection is extremely common, and it doesn't reflect on your worth as a person. By March of my senior year, I had received several rejection letters and was starting to wonder if my family's doubts had been justified. Competition was indeed intense, and many qualified students were being turned away from programs across the country. Then, in April, the acceptances started arriving. My first acceptance came from the University of Illinois College of Medicine, my state school safety option. My family was pleased but not surprised, since they viewed this as the most realistic possibility. Congratulations, Linda said when I shared the news. State medical schools give preference to in-state students, so that makes sense. It's a solid, practical choice. The backhanded nature of her congratulations was typical of Linda, acknowledging my achievement while diminishing its significance. 2 weeks later, I received an acceptance from Washington University in St. Louis, a highly ranked medical school that accepts fewer than 7% of applicants. My parents were genuinely impressed, but Linda maintained her skeptical tone. That's wonderful, Sarah, she said. I'm sure they have diversity initiatives to help students from less traditional academic backgrounds. The implication that I had been accepted due to diversity considerations rather than academic merit was insulting, but I decided not to engage with Linda's negativity. My cousin Jake's wedding was scheduled for the weekend after my final medical school interviews. Jake is Linda's son, and the wedding was a major family event with about 150 guests, including extended family, family friends, and professional colleagues. I had been looking forward to the wedding as a celebration and a break from the stress of waiting for final admission decisions. What I didn't expect was that Jake's wedding would become the setting for my most satisfying academic vindication. The morning of the wedding, I woke up early in my hotel room and checked my email one final time before getting ready for the ceremony. In my inbox was an email with the subject line "Admissions Decision, Johns Hopkins School of Medicine." My heart started racing as I opened the email. Johns Hopkins is one of the most prestigious medical schools in the world, consistently ranked in the top 3 programs nationally. I had interviewed there months earlier but hadn't expected to be accepted given their incredibly low acceptance rate. Dear Sarah, the email began, we are pleased to inform you that you have been accepted to the Johns Hopkins University School of Medicine for admission in the fall semester. I had to read the email 3 times before I believed what I was seeing. Johns Hopkins had accepted me with a partial merit scholarship based on my academic performance and interview. I sat in my hotel room staring at the acceptance email, thinking about all the family members who had questioned my intelligence and academic potential over the years. Linda's voice echoed in my mind. Some people just aren't naturally gifted. Medical school might be setting yourself up for disappointment. Medical schools want the absolute best students. I printed out the acceptance letter in the hotel business center and put it in my purse before heading to the wedding ceremony. The wedding ceremony was beautiful, and Jake and his bride looked happy during their vows. During the cocktail hour, I mingled with family members and caught up with relatives I hadn't seen in months. Several people asked about my medical school applications, and I shared news about my previous acceptances while keeping the Johns Hopkins acceptance to myself. 2 medical school acceptances is really impressive, my cousin Michelle said. You should be proud of yourself. It's wonderful that Sarah found her path, even if it took a little longer than some people, added my Aunt Carol, trying to be supportive while acknowledging my non-traditional timeline. During dinner, the conversation at our family table turned to academic achievements and career paths. Linda, as usual, positioned herself as the authority on educational standards and student potential. Medical school admissions have become so unpredictable, she declared to the table. Schools are accepting students based on factors other than pure academic merit these days. Linda, Sarah was accepted to 2 excellent medical schools, my mother pointed out. That's a significant achievement. Of course it's nice, Linda replied. But the top programs, places like Harvard, Johns Hopkins, Stanford, those schools still maintain the highest standards. They only accept students with exceptional natural ability. Linda's comment was clearly intended to diminish my acceptances by suggesting that real medical schools, the ones that mattered, were still beyond my capabilities. After dinner, the reception moved to speeches and toasts. Family members shared stories about Jake and his bride, and several people spoke about family achievements and milestones. That's when Linda made her fatal mistake. During a lull in the speeches, Linda stood up with her wine glass and asked for the microphone. As the mother of the groom, she had the floor to share whatever thoughts she wanted with the 150 wedding guests. I want to talk about family expectations and realistic goal setting, Linda began, her voice carrying clearly through the sound system. I had a sinking feeling about where this speech was headed. In our family, we've always valued education and academic achievement, Linda continued. But we've also learned the importance of helping young people understand their limitations and pursue appropriate paths. Several family members looked uncomfortable as Linda's speech took an unexpectedly critical turn. Some family members have been pursuing goals that frankly aren't realistic given their natural abilities, Linda said, looking directly at me. Sarah, for example, has been insisting that she's medical school material despite clear evidence that she's just not smart enough for that level of academic competition. The reception fell silent. 150 guests were now staring at me as Linda used Jake's wedding as a platform to publicly humiliate me. She's too dumb for medical school and should stop embarrassing the family with impossible dreams, Linda declared. Someone needs to tell her the truth about her limitations before she wastes more time and money on applications to schools that would never accept someone like her. I felt my face burn with humiliation and anger, but I also felt something else, complete confidence in my response. I stood up calmly and walked toward the microphone. Linda, since you've decided to make this public, I think it's time we discuss some facts about my medical school applications. I reached into my purse and pulled out the Johns Hopkins acceptance letter I had printed that morning. This morning, I received an acceptance letter from Johns Hopkins School of Medicine, I said clearly into the microphone. Johns Hopkins is currently ranked as the #2 medical school in the United States. The room was completely silent as I unfolded the letter. I'm going to read the relevant portions of this acceptance letter, I continued. Dear Sarah, we are pleased to inform you that you have been accepted to the Johns Hopkins University School of Medicine for admission in the fall semester. Gasps rippled through the audience. Linda's face had gone completely white. Furthermore, I continued reading, based on your exceptional academic performance and interview evaluation, we are pleased to offer you a Dean's Merit Scholarship covering 50% of your tuition costs. I folded the letter and looked directly at Linda. So when you suggest that I'm too dumb for medical school and that top programs would never accept someone like me, the facts suggest otherwise. The room erupted in applause. 150 wedding guests were clapping for my academic achievement while Linda stood frozen in humiliation. Jake grabbed the microphone and quickly moved the reception back to wedding-focused speeches, but the damage to Linda's credibility was complete and irreversible. For the rest of the evening, family members approached me to congratulate me on the Johns Hopkins acceptance and express their shock at Linda's behavior. I can't believe Linda said those things about you in front of everyone, my cousin David said. And at Jake's wedding, no less. That was completely inappropriate. Sarah, I had no idea you had gotten into Johns Hopkins, my Aunt Carol said. That's incredible. Linda must feel horrible about what she said. But Linda didn't approach me to apologize. Instead, she spent the rest of the reception making awkward small talk with guests while avoiding eye contact with me or anyone who might bring up her speech. My parents were mortified by Linda's behavior but proud of my achievement. "Sarah, we're so sorry about Linda's speech," my mother said privately. "What she said was cruel and completely wrong. We're incredibly proud of your Johns Hopkins acceptance." "We always knew you were capable of great things," my father added. "I'm sorry we sometimes doubted how high you could reach academically." The drive home from the wedding gave me time to process what had happened. Linda's public attack had backfired spectacularly, but more importantly, I had proven to myself and my family that intelligence and academic potential can't always be measured by traditional metrics. The aftermath of the wedding speech created lasting changes in family dynamics. Linda's reputation within our extended family was seriously damaged. Relatives who had previously respected her opinions about education began questioning her judgment and her treatment of family members. "I can't believe Linda was so wrong about Sarah," my cousin mentioned at a later gathering. "And the way she attacked her at Jake's wedding was horrible." Several family members approached me privately to apologize for doubting my academic potential over the years. "I realize now that I was wrong to suggest you should consider more realistic options," my Uncle Robert admitted. "You proved that determination and hard work can overcome any perceived limitations." Linda made several attempts to repair her relationship with me, but her apologies focused more on the inappropriate timing of her speech rather than acknowledging the cruelty of her years-long campaign to undermine my confidence. "I'm sorry I brought up your medical school applications at Jake's wedding," she said to me privately a few weeks later. "That wasn't the right time or place for those concerns." "Linda, the problem wasn't the timing," I replied. "The problem was that you spent years telling me I was too stupid for medical school while I was working incredibly hard to prove otherwise." Her attempts at reconciliation felt hollow given the extent of her previous criticism and her public humiliation at the wedding. 6 months later, I started classes at Johns Hopkins School of Medicine. The transition was challenging, but I was well prepared thanks to the work ethic I developed while overcoming everyone's doubts about my abilities. My academic performance in medical school has been strong, and I've discovered that the skills I developed as a non-traditional student, persistence, resourcefulness, and the ability to overcome obstacles, are incredibly valuable in medical education. Linda occasionally asks family members about my progress in medical school, but we don't have direct conversations about my education or career plans. The experience taught me several important lessons about intelligence, academic potential, and family dynamics. First, intelligence comes in many forms, and academic potential can't always be measured by standardized tests or traditional educational paths. My struggles with test anxiety in high school didn't reflect my actual capabilities for academic success. Second, family members who constantly question your goals and abilities may be motivated by their own limitations rather than genuine concern for your welfare. Third, proving doubters wrong isn't just about personal vindication, it's about changing limiting beliefs that might prevent other family members from pursuing ambitious goals. Most importantly, the experience reinforced that determination and hard work can overcome perceived limitations, but you have to be willing to continue pursuing your goals even when the people closest to you don't believe in your abilities. Today, I'm thriving in medical school and planning to specialize in emergency medicine. My grades are excellent, and I've been selected for several competitive research opportunities. Linda's predictions about my academic limitations have been thoroughly disproven, but more importantly, I've learned to trust my own assessment of my capabilities rather than accepting others' judgments about my potential. The wedding speech incident has become something of a family legend, a cautionary tale about the dangers of underestimating family members and the importance of supporting rather than discouraging ambitious goals. If you've experienced family members questioning your intelligence or academic potential, know that their doubts say more about their own limitations than about your capabilities. Trust your own assessment of your abilities, work harder than anyone expects, and don't let other people's limiting beliefs become your reality. If you enjoyed this story of academic vindication and medical school acceptance that silenced family doubters, please give this video a like and subscribe to True Revenge for more stories of educational underdogs proving everyone wrong. Share your own experiences with academic doubters in the comments below. Have you ever had family members underestimate your intelligence or educational potential? Remember that your academic journey is yours to define, and sometimes the most satisfying revenge against people who call you too dumb is simply proving them spectacularly wrong. Thank you for listening to my story of wedding speech vindication and Johns Hopkins acceptance justice. Sometimes the best response to people who question your intelligence is a letter that proves your brilliance beyond any doubt.